Women excel in so many areas, but there's one where we don't always feel confident, and that's handling our money. Our guest today on Excellent Living, Deborah Smith Pegues, is on a mission to inspire women to acquire the 4 C's of competence, clarity, confidence, and courage so we can make wise financial decisions that will improve the quality of our lives. Deborah is a certified public accountant with an MBA in finance. She's also a best-selling author, writing more than 15 books, including Lead Like a Woman, 30 Days to Taming Your Tongue, 30 Days to Taming Your Finances, and the 1-Minute Money Mentor for Women, 21 Strategies for Financial Empowerment. Our host, Cheryl Martin, got the conversation started with one of Deborah's quotes.
Deborah, I love this quote from you that says, women cannot expect to have a quality life if we don't have the skills to manage the one tool that answers all things, and that's money. So do you find that money and managing money well is one of those sticky issues for women?
Absolutely, Cheryl. It is, because, and you'll hear a lot of women say, I just don't have a head for figures. What in the world does that mean? This is why I'm adamant about this. And this is why I wrote this book, The 1-Minute Money Mentor, is because women are ultimately going to have to manage their own money. I actually started out trying to address it to married women when I had the idea, because I've seen so many married women, and a former pastor's wife, he died and she had to manage the money. And that just wasn't her forte. But let me tell you this, let me just give you this startling stat. 80% of the men who die are married. 80% of the women who die are single. What does that mean? When these married men die, they're leaving women who have to fend for themselves. And, maybe they've planned for them or whatever, but they still have to know how to manage the money. And so I want women to be savvy. I want them to understand key terms, key things that they need to know just to survive well and to manage well so they don't get taken advantage of. Besides the fact that we have less time in the marketplace, so we end up with less money because we have to drop out and either take care of kids and all of that. We tend to make less money than men, sometimes up to 70% of a man's salary. So with all of these financial negatives, you're going to have to learn how to be shrewd enough to manage what you do get. And then, of course, and at the same time, ask for what you want. But this is why it's important for women to learn to be financially savvy. So in the book, I talk about strategies for financial empowerment. And then you shouldn't come away not knowing what basic terms mean. A lot of times, just the ability to manage has to do with just understanding the entire concept.
So where does a woman start when she looks at her finances?
Well, she starts with like, where am I? That's where you start everything. If you ever go to a mall, you'll see a sign that says, you are here. Now that's very powerful. And because look, you obviously came with a goal in mind. I'm going over here to this store, but you are here. You need to stop and ask yourself, where am I? What are my assets? What are my liabilities? What do I need on a monthly basis to break even? What are my skills, my talents, if I need to make more money? Where am I? And sometimes you can't do that in the hustle bustle. You're just going to have to sit down, block a day, and just start looking at it. Okay, here's what I own. I own a house, or I don't own a house. I own this, and this has this value. Am I maximizing this? Do I need to relocate or whatever? My husband and I recently, it hasn't been recent now, it's 3 years ago, relocated to an area that I wasn't crazy about necessarily. It's beautiful, but it's far away from the hustle and bustle that I like. But in retrospect, it was a good decision. But that came from sitting down and said, okay, we live in this house. It's in a great neighborhood. We need to sell this because we still owe a significant amount of money on it, but the neighborhood is increasing and we could get enough to pay cash for a house in this other area. So that's what we did. It really improved the quality of our lives in doing that. So that's what I'm telling women to do. Find out where you are. What do you need? Where do I need to go? And how do I get there? And if you don't know how, listen, you may need to hire somebody to just sit with you. I'm really big on this. Proverbs 23:23, buy wisdom, buy it, buy knowledge. I believe in investing in knowledge.
Now, what if a woman does this? She sits down and she looks at where she is and she finds a hot mess. No savings, a lot of debt, a lot of credit card debt, and she just is not ready for the unexpected. What's a woman to do in that situation, Deborah?
where you're going to start to get ready. You know, how much in debt are you? Suppose let's just say, okay, I have more debt than I have assets, but what can I sell? Or how can I begin to chip this down? Can I take on a part-time job? What skills do I have? Have I been volunteering for anything that I can now monetize? Just ask yourself these questions. What do you have? You know, as Elijah said to the woman who came to him and said, the creditors are going to take my sons away. What do you have? I just have a little oil. Okay, well, get that. Let's see how we can maximize that. So all of us, God has left nobody skillless. And so all of us have something, some skill, something that we can do that will add value to other people's lives that we can begin to charge for. Or maybe you're in that space where you may have people who are kind of living free on you, and you need to just start to collect more money from people that have been taken from you. Stop some of those bad habits. If you've been lending money, whatever you've been doing, but ask yourself, why am I in this position? How did I get here? And what is the first step I can take to get out? So you always want to reduce debt. All right. Whatever you can do. There are only two options here: increase income, reduce your expenses. And I like to start with reducing my expenses, because most of us spend too much eating out. We probably don't need any more clothes until the rapture. You know, so we have pretty much what we need. And so stop digging a hole. If you're in debt, don't dig anymore. Don't dig the hole any deeper. Stop charging things if you can. Now, that's easy to say in this environment, but I can tell you that most people are living on credit. Significant numbers of people are living on credit cards, and they can't follow that, but they can at least keep paying the minimum payment. So have a strategy. Have a strategy. And there are nonprofit places that will teach you how to do that. Or just always go to the internet, or go and get my other book, the 30 Days to Taming Your Finances. And I have practical steps in there as well as in this current book.
You're saying for a person to look and see where is your money going and what is absolutely necessary, like food on the table, versus just going window shopping and seeing a cute outfit and deciding to buy that. In other words, doing a bare bones if you need to do that.
Yeah, you need a survival mindset. You know, you get a survival budget. And listen, this is for a season, because it's not going to be this way always. But if you manage it well, you can get to the place where you want to be. And that's a good exercise to do. So you have the discipline to do it. I always like to tell everybody, if you have the Holy Spirit, you let that fruit of temperance dictate what you buy, when you buy it. And you got to always ask your why. Too many people buy self-esteem. They buy these trappings that say, I'm successful. Look at this purse. Look at this dress. This is name brand stuff. What does that buy you? I like to ask people to do this. Before you spend money, ask yourself, if everybody in the world were blind, would I buy this? Okay, would I buy this car? Would I just buy a car? You know, and there will come a time, because everybody's not in the same space. There'll come a time where you can buy whatever luxuries you want, but I have my own priorities when it comes to how I handle money. It's like God first, pay God, pay myself, and then I look at what else I want to do. You know, that's my strategy.
You mentioned, of course, to focus on essentials to get the credit card debt down. Is there any such thing as good debt versus bad debt?
Yes, there is. And the good debt is the debt that adds value to your life, whatever you bought it. And when I say add value, I don't mean new clothes, but if you buy a house and it increases in value, if you invest in your education and it positions you to make more money, that's good debt. That's good debt. That's why they don't just cancel and let you go. But I understand we're in the process of trying to do something like that, which would be good. But the bad debt is that when you buy something and it decreases in value, you know, and especially like consumer stuff. Like, I mean, some cars, you got to have a car, but you don't have to have the top of the line car. Yes, you need clothes, but you don't have to have the name brands. And so there's good debt and bad debt. But in terms of how you approach getting out of debt, there are two schools of thought. You can either pay the highest, the bill with the highest balance, or the highest interest rate. Here's what I tell everybody. I just choose the one with, if I had to, I don't carry consumer debt like that anymore, but I would choose the one with the lowest balance and just pay it off. Now, what does that do? that gives you a sense of accomplishment. Because when you're trying to knock down debt and you started with the one with the highest balance and it had the highest interest rate, you really will save more money if you got rid of the ones with the highest interest rate, but you're going to get debt fatigue. You're going to get tired of paying on it. And so a lot of people get disincentivized and they say, I'm tired of paying on bills. I'm just going to go enjoy myself. That's why if you start with the lowest one, you can start with the lowest one and you got this little gold star mindset. Oh, I got that one out, knock that one out. And you take the whatever you've been paying on that and roll it over to the next one. That's a standard plan, but it's what you need to do. You just need to do it.
A lot of what you're talking about is emotional spending, isn't it?
Yeah, because you know what, and we got to identify that emotion. And I talk about that a lot because emotions really are at the root of even positive spendings or how we handle money, savings. For instance, I like to save a lot because maybe the underlying emotion is this fear of not having my bills covered or whatever. And so you have to look at the emotion and understand. But sometimes we're depressed and we're trying to make ourselves feel better. Sometimes we are angry because we didn't speak up or something. We just go make ourselves feel better. So you got to first ask yourself, what am I feeling? What am I feeling? I want to go to the mall. What am I feeling? If you know you're out of control and that you shouldn't be shopping, just leave the money at home. Just take your driver's license and go walk around at the mall and leave. Don't take the credit cards with you. Just don't take the credit cards with you. But the key thing is to understand the emotion that's driving you and to really identify it and find an alternate way of dealing with it. And I find that walking just helps a lot with a whole bunch of emotions. Just go out for a good brisk walk and you'll be all right. If you can't get out there to walk, just go out there and look around. Look at the trees. Get distracted from that desire to want to go shop and get yourself out of alignment. Because listen, Cheryl, in the Bible, in that story of the talents where God, the master gave 1, 5, 5, 2, and 1, whatever it was, the number, the scripture
Right.
says, according to their ability. He gave to each one according to their ability to manage. I maintain that God gives us money according to what we've proven we can manage. If we're not generous with a little bit, we're not going to be generous with a lot and all of that. So just keep that in mind.
That was best-selling author Deborah Smith Pegues. You're listening to the weekly broadcast, Excellent Living with Cheryl Martin. Today's topic, empowerment strategies to help women take charge of our money and make great financial decisions. Deborah is passionate about this topic. She's an astute businesswoman and a certified public accountant. She's written more than 15 books, including The 1-Minute Money Mentor for Women. To learn more about Deborah, visit confrontingissues.com. Now back to the conversation.
You said that you are to get financially intimate before and after you say I do. So finances are so important. How do you broach the subject, let's say, if you are engaged or seriously courting?
Okay, I'm going to give you a strategy because I like to be extremely practical in my approach to life and teaching and writing. If you think you're getting to the point where you're going to have a permanent relationship, you need to say, let's start out with it being safe, because it sounds unromantic for some people, but you can say, hey, I'd like to understand your mindset about money. I think that would be great, since that's the number one reason it is the number one source of tension in a marriage is money. So we don't want that in our marriage. And so why don't let's just discuss our history. What was what kind of environment did you grow up in money wise? Who handled the money? Who did you perceive as being powerful? And just have a friendly discussion. How did that impact what you think and how you think? My husband grew up in a family where his mom didn't work. His dad did all the work and all that and blah, blah, blah. But, and we'll just ask the question. Even to this day, we interview each other on how our mindset towards money. What did you think about that? And what did you think about debt? Was your family in debt? Did they talk about money when they fought about money? What did they say? How did that impact you? See, we're just getting to know each other now. We're not pointing fingers. We want to know. And what's your mindset about a house? Some men don't want to own a house. It's like, I don't want all that burden. But you need to interview each other, but not in a direct, an inquisition. But you want to just find out the money mindset of that person. Because you're taking mental notes. I did say mental, don't write it all down.
And do you highly recommend that if you are engaged or talking about engagement, that you ask for each other's credit reports?
I think you can do that to say, okay, let's see what our financial ability is going to be. What kind of empowerment are we going to have financially? What, what's your credit score? Why don't we just kind of look those up, and let's bring our credit reports together and just kind of see what kind of synergy we're going to create as a couple. Again, you don't make it sound like, I want to make sure you don't mess me up. You want to make sure that we're saying, listen, we're getting positioned. We're going to become one financially. We're not just become one in the bed. We're going to become one financially. And so let's just see what our ability is going to be here. And so that's how you bring that together without saying, I got to see your credit report before I say I do. It's like, let's compare it. And what do we need to do now so that we hit the ground running? If his credit score is 600 and maybe yours is 500, because I'm making this sound like the woman always has a good one and the man has a bad one. And that is so not true. It's usually the other way around. But so you want to just bring it together. It's how you say it. I always say, ask God, give me your words. And Isaiah talks about that his words don't return void. The words that go forth from God's mouth. God, give me your words. So when I broach this subject, it doesn't create tension. It creates unity.
I think there are a number of women, especially African-American women, who may have a higher salary, income, may be more educated, not in every instance, than their husbands. And let's say there is an imbalance with what they bring to the table. So in those situations, how critical is it for the couple to have a conversation about expectations, about who's going to pay for what? How do they reconcile all of that? And some women may say, well, he can't tell me what to do with my money. How do you navigate all of that?
Well, here's what we did. We sat down and we both came to the mindset. Well, let's say he came to it before I did, that if the marriage is one, everything that comes into the marriage belongs to the marriage. Now, but if you should know ahead of time, you should have some kind of inkling whether or not that's a person you want to trust with your finances. Because if you just have to keep it separate, and we can have separate accounts, and we do for functionality, but we both have access to it and not have the codes and all that. So, but here's the deal. You have to come to agreement on what your goals are going to be. And are we both buying in? And when you say an imbalance, it really is just maybe an economic imbalance, but it certainly shouldn't be a spiritual imbalance. And so if you can come together, and the Bible says, how can two walk together unless they agree? And so let's write down some things we can come to agreement. Here's what our list looks like, Cheryl. We agree that we're going to pay our tithes. We have been married 42 years, this coming in a couple of weeks. We've in 42 years, and I say it with all humility and the grace of God, we have never not paid our tithes. We have paid our tithes consistently for 42 years. Well, that's one of the things we agreed to, no matter what the economy does, and we've lost jobs, been laid off, but we have always maintained that. That's what we agreed to. We agreed also to stay out of debt, though. We're not going to just be buying stuff to be buying stuff. Now, that didn't happen early on. We bought stuff, had to get consolidation loans, and we figured out that wasn't the best way. And so you have to sit down and talk about it. Now, if he won't talk about it, that's a red flag. If you can't come to agreement on some goals, because here's the deal. I hope I'm not going too long on this, but if you can come together on specific goals, then any money that's available beyond that, an emergency reserve, we're going to have 6 months emergency reserve, any money that's left over for recreation. And there should be, I don't want to say leftover, because I do believe in planning that, but you come together on that. And so even at one point in our own lives, we decided we need to spend no more than $100 a month eating out, because when we added up the money, we were spending like 5 figures eating out. Well, this is not wise. That's not growing. That's bad debt. So I just want to say that what's important, get the goals, agree to them, and just keep negotiating until you can agree. We're still negotiating. We have a timeshare. I don't really like having that thing. I don't want to have to pay all those fees, but we're still negotiating that. We negotiate everything. Where are we going on vacation? When? How long? Where? That kind of thing.
I think there are couples who really do not hash out and have these discussions before they get married, and then they start having it after the fact, and it just blows up.
Yeah. That's why my husband and I actually developed a little tool called financial intimacy. It's available on our website at confrontingissues.com. But it's financial intimacy for couples. It gives you the script, and it's downloadable, and it costs almost nothing. But it's important that people know how. See, most people don't know how to broach that subject without it sounding like I'm accusing somebody of not being good enough financially or being whatever, and because we don't believe in having secrets like that. Some people, when I was growing up, they said, listen, make sure you always have your little stash over here just in case he acts up. You'll be able to. I mean, were you ever told anything like that? Not necessarily by your mom, but you heard people.
I have heard that.
Yeah. And so I kind of embraced that for a minute. I thought, well, my husband said, well, listen, if we're going to be separate in this thing like that, we could have just lived together. He know that was not an option. But the point is, we're either going to be one or we're not. And to the extent that you can have that kind of financial oneness, intimacy, I call it, where we understand each other's motivation and we don't judge it. We don't say that's stupid. That's a stupid idea. No, let's just bring the ideas to the table, come up with some common goals. And as long as we achieve those, fine. I'm on a thing right now, buying office equipment. Well, my husband, his thing is to like, I'm not trying to be working that hard at this point in my life. So it's like, we have to negotiate that.
This works for the two of you because both of you are willing to negotiate, and you started this process before you said, I do. Yeah. So what advice do you have with one spouse who definitely wants to work to eliminate the debt? The other spouse doesn't want to work together. It's like, no, I'm not interested in us working together.
Well, you got to find out why. And because, I'm not defending men, but a lot of times they don't want to be dictated to. And so maybe it's your approach, but find out why. It's like, what are your goals? Where would you like to see us be? A lot of times we just need to listen and ask questions, but not in an accusatory way. What in your ideal world, where would you see us being? Let me just hear from you. If that person's not willing to talk, then you can say, I realize you don't want to talk about this. So can you just listen to me? I want you to hear where I'd like to go. And I'd like you to pray about it. And listen, Cheryl, you can never underestimate the power of prayer. If God said even the heart of a king is in his hand and he can turn it, there have been times I'll just say, God, turn the mindset, just go to God. Don't underestimate that. That's practical. Let God change your mind, because he may just change your mind. He may change your mind about some things and how you're approaching it or where you're trying to go. Because a lot of times we're concerned about how other people are perceiving us. It's like, well, I want us to move to a bigger house because my friend Susie has a big house. Well, let's just get back to our why. If he doesn't want to talk about it, why? Maybe he's afraid. Maybe he's afraid he's going to have to take over that responsibility, and he doesn't think he can do it. And so let's just keep peeling the onion with understanding and grace to find out why we can't get on the same page. Use God's words. They won't return void. They'll accomplish his purpose.
And so when we have these frank conversations, because I'm always talking to singles, they should also be upfront about their level of indebtedness, correct?
That's why that credit report helps, because everything that you're in debt on is going to be on there. And so, let's just exchange credit reports and just, what do we have here? How soon can we be at this place?
Some may be fearful that that's a deal breaker.
Well, if you know what, you need to say that, listen, if there's something we need to fix here, we may have to delay actually getting together until such time as we can get this fixed. But let's look at it. Let's see what kind of strategy we can have to fix this in the next 5 or 6 months. Listen, it's not impossible if you come to the table with an open mind, because that person may need the help. They just may not have ever had anybody to be serious enough to help them stay on a budget. Bad word. Let's develop a winning spending plan for us. Make it a focus, a positive thing. We're not here like, oh, Lord, you got a lot of debt. Listen, I dated Darnell such a short period of time. I met him and married him 7 months later. He still had American Express bills where he'd taken other women out to dinner. He says, since
he didn't have to clear that up before you said I do.
No, but here's what he said. Can we make this part of the household bills? Like, no, not that part, but sure, not that part, but I can show you how to pay those down. But you know what? You have to agree.
Funny.
Yeah, you have to agree. But just being real, because I think sometimes people can really learn from when we're vulnerable like that. I don't like to tell couples, just learn how to agree. Now, what does agreement will look like? You look at the problem, you analyze it. Is there a solution? Am I willing to embrace that solution? Well, what's plan B? What can we do? But stay open. If God has put you together, he's put you together. If he hasn't, he may be saying, hey, this is a red flag. This person may have trouble with the fact that you make the most money. You need to ask him that. What do you feel about that? What are your fears about it? Because a lot of men say they feel minimized and diminished in some way when the woman makes the most money. And you never need to tell him that you do. That's why I want to just say to a lot of professional women, it's like, I don't need him. It's like, do you need to tell somebody that you don't need them financially if they see your big fat check? You think they need to be told that? Just watch it, that you never give that impression that you don't matter as much, that he who has the gold makes the rules. So I make the rules here because I'm the one with the gold. You just don't do that. It's one. That's why we like to say everything that comes into the marriage belongs to the marriage. We don't have secret access codes or secret accounts. All the accounts we have, we each know where they are and we have the access to it and all of that. Just keep it out on the table. That's the trick of the enemy, to get us hiding things. That'll destroy our marriage, or it will it will reduce the quality of it. We need to know that we trust each other. And that's a good thing.
Deborah, once again, this has been so enlightening. Principles from your book, The 1 Minute Money Mentor. And the other thing that I love about this book, it includes some great resources. At the end of the book, a financial manifesto, balance sheet template, other templates, and financial empowerment resources. Thank you so much for sharing with us all the wisdom God has given you.
Thank you, Cheryl. It's been my pleasure.
Such valuable and practical information for women, single or married, for getting a better handle on our finances. Our guest, Deborah Smith Pegues, has an MBA in finance. She's also a CPA, former corporate executive, and a popular author and speaker. Cheryl Martin mentioned Deborah's book, The 1 Minute Money Mentor for Women. It offers 21 strategies for financial empowerment. She also wrote 30 Days to Taming Your Finances, Lead Like a Woman, and the bestseller 30 Days to Taming Your Tongue, with more than 1 million copies sold. You can learn more about Deborah Smith Pegues, order her books and other resources when you visit her website, confrontingissues.com. That's confrontingissues.com. I'm Doris McMillan, inviting you to tune in to Excellent Living again next week at this same time. Our resident relationship expert, Dr. Johnny Parker, will join Cheryl with more tools to strengthen marriages. And remember, excellent living is doing all of life God's way, because it's the best way.